Hey guys, welcome to Coffee Cozy Up. We are what, day 23? It better be day 23. The days are just kind of like mushing together now. So today I am going to be finishing the tree, but I have to go to the store because there's stuff missing, which I think my mother threw them out. But don't tell her I told you that. But anyway, I'm going to go to the store and do that. But I wanted to share with you the books that I got. And the books I got is going to go with the topic for the video, which is historical fiction. And this year I read quite a few. Six, but not as much as I normally read. My favorite genre, of course, is historical fiction and romance, and I typically read a lot of both. And this year the romance was up there and the historical fiction was not. There were other books that were, if some might still consider them historical fiction, because the setting was I would say the late 80s and the 90s, but I don't consider, if it's not from at least the 60 and older, I don't really consider historical fiction. In my mind, it's just, to me, not old enough. It's still, to me, I just, maybe because of my age, I just don't see that the 90s as a historical fiction. I absolutely don't. So if I was to count those, I'm pretty sure I would have a lot more than 6. But we're just gonna deal with the fact that that's what it is. So the books that I picked up, 2 of them are considered, well, definitely historical fiction. So we're gonna go with Kaleidoscope, and this is Cicely Wong, and this is a it is not historical fiction actually, but it can somewhat, because it does go back with talking about a rags to riches story about a biracial Asian American family. And when I saw this in the bookstore yesterday, because I had to use my coupon from Barnes and Noble, for some reason it just attracted me. And then when I opened it and I was reading, I said, okay, it's family drama. I like family drama, and it is an Asian American family, so I thought it's going to be very interesting to read this. Then I saw an old fave. I love Fiona Davis, so of course when I saw her new one, Magnolia Palace, I was like, yeah, now this is absolutely historical fiction, because it's set in 1990s, which is the Spanish flu, and the main character mom died, and she is I guess a figure model, and she's going through all these emotional feels because of that. And she took on a job with at this place, and there's some family drama going on and all kind of things that she's not supposed to know, so she got entwined in all of that. So that's what I'm getting with this. But I like Fiona Davis' book because I always learn something, because she always put a bit of history in her books. So this was definitely a book I will enjoy. And let me tell you, I'm trying not to start this book until next year. So this is one, definitely a January read for me. But right now I really want to start reading this book. I just do, because I love her historical fiction, and there's always a mystery elements to her books. This one, I do not know this author, Catherine Adele West, and this is Two Lives of Sarah. I've seen this book quite a few times, and this book is basically a young girl who, I think it says, in the 1960s Memphis, a young mother finds refuge at a boarding house where family encompasses more than just blood, and hidden truth can bury you or set you free. So basically she's pregnant, she got on the bus to go to Memphis and escaping what we don't know. So that's one of those stories, and also what is she's going to experience when she's there. So I want to read this, and the cover is absolutely gorgeous. This is like a cover by, in a way, when you just see the cover initially you just want to grab it up, but at the same time I'm hoping it's good, because I'm having, in my mind, I'm rooting for this book. The next book is absolutely an author by I love the author. I read all her books. If I see it, I'm buying it. And I knew this came out a couple months now. I've been eyeing it, but I just didn't have the time to pick it up. So here we go. Taylor Jenkins Reid, and this is Carrie Soto is Back. This is a tennis book, which is kind of different. And she is trying to get a comeback because her record was taken from her. And that's what I'm getting from this. It is very much out of, but then again, I think this author is known to try many different ways of telling the story, and her stories are definitely not all the same at all. So I do like the fact that she oftentimes go outside the box and tell stories that are not what you expect. But I've never read any tennis at all book, and her stories always have some form of family drama in it. So I'm here for this. I'm here for this. So we're gonna read this. And those are the only 4 books. Now, it is still not Christmas. I don't know if I'm getting any more gift card. If I get gift card, then it might be some more books I pick up, but I don't think I am. I think most people are going to give me something because they know I'm always like, give me something, not card. But these might be the end of the last, I would say the last haul for the year, the last purchase. And I don't intend on purchasing any book in January. So these are definitely going to be on my TBR, and along with some other books that I've been holding off that I want to read. So let's go into what I've read this year. So this year, one of the first one is The Palace Daughter, and this one was sent to me, I think like the month before. Like I think it was sent to me like in December, and I didn't read it until January of this year. And it was one of those surprise love. I enjoyed The Palace Daughter. It's not what I expected, but what I liked about this story is it follows a woman who is basically wants to know more about her father, because she's didn't want to believe that something tragic happened to him. But what I liked about this story is it follows her aunt that went with her on this search to discover secrets about him that she didn't know. And when she gets there, you are learning more about the aunt's life, because the aunt used to work and live in New York. So you get the showgirl-ish, who I guess, I forgot what the title that they used to use, because I read this back in January, but they had a particular title that they used to label these women back then. And did I even write it down? Follett? I think it's Follett. Yeah, they had a title they used to call these women instead of saying showgirl, what we know of now. And you see that these were white women who were showgirls, who were performers in in bars, and I guess then you would say jazz club and that kind of deal, and how some of them really, what they had to do to survive, what they had to do to break in a certain industry if they wanted. It's the nitty gritty of it. There's also the term that is sugar daddy, and the author used the actual first person that they coined the term sugar daddy for in the storyline. So once I was finished reading, there's certain things about the book I googled, and there's so many things that she did use in order to inspire her story. And there's a particular event that happened in the book was actually a true story. Of course she add things to it to make it fiction, but the actual base of the story was true. So I was very fascinated by this book, and I love historical fiction that even though it's fiction, it provides factual things that happened during that particular time period that the book is centered around, and as well as the location, New York City. And I often read a lot of Harlem Renaissance, a lot of black culture in New York. I don't read a lot of white culture in New York during that time period. So this was very much a interesting take to see what these white women who were in show business had to endure, which was not far from the black women. They just didn't have the racial issue, but they had the sexual advance, they had the sexual being used, and things that they had to shut up about and take it. They had experienced that. So this was an interesting book. So if you're looking for that kind of era and you want to read something that's historical fiction, I highly recommend this book. The next one on my list is a book I would not recommend, and that is Harlem Shuffle. This is also New York City, I believe for the 50s and 60s. It just was not executed well at all. The author is such a brilliant writer that I was absolutely disappointed that it did not, the penmanship on this was just not good. So don't recommend it, but I added it because it was a historical fiction. Then we have Sister Mother Warrior by Vanessa Riley, and I absolutely love this one. And this is an author that I have realized how committed she is to write these historical fiction of women who are from the Caribbean. And you cannot go wrong with that. I think it's just a very much a commitment that I appreciate as a Caribbean person, because I'm learning so much about different islands and women who are known in history books from these islands, who story that I knew very little of, or sometimes not at all. And in this one, she highlighted women who were a part of the Haitian Revolution, and these women are actual, we do have a lot of documentation from them. So she did a lot of research in this. She took a lot of actual factual research from people of Haiti and tell stories about these two women that we know existed and we know were there with the fight. We know that contributed to the revolution. Oftentimes you don't hear about the women, you don't hear about their struggle. And what I love how she did this story is she didn't do it where she sugarcoat. She talked about the good, the bad, and the flaws. Is also the brilliant things about these women that you don't get a lot of times, you know, where you want to protect the story so much that you glance over the things that weren't so good. And I like that because we have one who directly came from Africa, where she knew what bondage was, but she also was a part of the Dahomey tribe, so she knew the things that she was also involved in. And there's that part of her that she has to come to terms in, but she did some good things. So there's a bit of everything with her. Then we have another woman who is a mulatto, who has had that haven't had experience of those that were in the field, because the lightness of her skin had protected her beyond her surroundings and her home. And I thought that was interesting. And the men who we all know in the history books and their relationship to these women, and some of the not so great things, but also some of those things that were necessary to tell a story that was very much authentic and raw and gritty. And it was just absolutely amazing. If you have not read this book, highly recommend it. Then we have Booth, and this is Karen Joy Fuller. Now, I thought this was a Booker chance. There's always that one historical fiction on the Booker list that gets the long list, and sometimes it can be a hit or miss in terms of what it shared. Now, this is a long one, but I absolutely enjoyed this. This was my kind of historical fiction where you were giving me stories that I didn't know. For one, I did not know the detail about the storyline. I still refuse to even say it in videos, because if you have no idea, right, I'd rather you go into this story blind. But it is a family saga. It is highlighting the family of someone who have done something that is historically known and is absolutely terrible, and the name that follows it, and how this name it affected each family. But you get a build up to some of the things that was going on. And what this author did was took actual written stories and written documents from family members, especially one particular family member whose story I really want to read the actual book, but took that and took what is known and what other people who are close to them known and come up with this brilliant story. It was very interesting. It was well done. I absolutely love it. It's not for everyone, but it's really for the historical fiction buff. If you are a person like me that really enjoy historical fiction, I highly recommend you check this one out and read it. The next one is a romance, which is To Catch a Raven. And this is another one where I felt like Beverly Jenkins knocked it out the ball. This is the third book in a series, and this highlight women who were from the era where there are certain things that you just don't do. There's certain behavior that you just don't do simply because you were a woman. And what I liked in this is how she talks about what is the Declaration of Independence? Why am I getting a blank on that? And how that there were several copies that is known. Even recently, not too long ago, there was another copy found. So there was always that whole idea, which one was the actual original or the first, because they're still authentic, but there's that which one was first kind of storyline. I like that they added that. Of course, it was a story that would result in a theft of the document, and how these two people have to go find it, and they have to go in the south. They're black and they have to go to the south to get it. So it makes the story very much interesting and takes you on a journey of the time period and what was happening then, and how she was able to still add some romance even though the time period is dreadful. And I appreciate stories like that, because a lot of time when you have slave narrative story, it is hard to really see the love and to feel the romance when there's about survival and people are trying to survive. So I enjoy that. Now, the last book on this I have is more of a recent read, and The Scent of Burned Flowers. And yeah, still struggling with that name, guys. This, by the way. So anyway, this book is the 60s. It is Ghana. It's also the US South in the 60s. So this is about a man who had to defend himself and resulted in the death of a white man. So he's black. He's running now with the woman he was with, and they're decided to go to Ghana. Now Ghana is the 60s, and they're dealing with their own civil war and their own political struggles, and he's trying to find this man who's in political power to help them seek refuge in that country where they wouldn't go back, and possibly be killed, or go through some hardship, because it doesn't matter if you were defending yourself, you killed a white person. I enjoyed this. It felt like a movie. Which turned out the author is a well-known director. So for me, I was like, oh, okay, it makes sense how the chapters were written, how the book flowed. There was not a lot of dragging. It really read fast. It also gave you that a bit of fantasy in there, that we would say African folklore that was mixed in it, that I thought gave the book an interesting twist and add something different to the book that I think made the book even more interesting and make you think of certain things. When you think of survival and what is meant to be and what you should be listening to, and directions that you should have been taking, especially in this particular story. So I like that part. It is a debut novel, and I think I'm looking forward to what more the author will come out with. But I'm also curious to see if he's gonna push to get this into a movie, because I think it might be an interesting way to do it. That's sure, because the folklore is a little tricky, but nevertheless it's possible. So we'll see. And that's the last of my historical fiction. So, but I'm not bothered by the fact that I've read those. I think when I think of it, I rather real quality than just to have a whole bunch of historical fiction where a lot of them I don't like. A lot of historical the literary writings recently have all been in the middle, but these definitely are memorable, and I will definitely not forget it. So yeah, so I'm going to head out now, and I probably gonna add a clip of when I finish the tree and put the gifts under, but other than that, see y'all in the next one. See you tomorrow. All right guys, thanks for watching. Bye.